The bitter Alaskan wind howled through the trees as Olivia Reed adjusted her camera settings, trying to capture the perfect shot of the aurora borealis dancing across the night sky. At -20 degrees, her fingers were stiff despite the insulated gloves, but she couldn't resist the ethereal display above. As a wilderness photographer, she'd spent countless nights in remote locations, but something about this evening felt different. The first sign that this wasn't a typical night came when her equipment began malfunctioning. The digital display on her camera flickered erratically, and her compass spun in circles. Then came the light, not the gentle waves of the aurora, but a sharp, piercing beam that cut through the darkness like a knife. Olivia instinctively ducked behind a snow-covered boulder, her heart pounding against her ribs. The light grew closer, accompanied by a low humming that seemed to vibrate through her bones. As it passed overhead, she caught glimpse of something that defied explanation, a sleek, metallic form that moved with impossible grace through the star-studded sky. The object disappeared behind the tree line, followed by a muffled impact that sent tremors through the frozen ground. Olivia debated her options. The sensible choice would be to return to her cabin and pretend she'd seen nothing. But curiosity had always been her weakness, and this might be the story of a lifetime. Following the direction of the crash, she trudged through knee-deep snow, her camera forgotten in its bag. The trek took nearly an hour, and when she finally reached the impact site, she found herself facing something extraordinary. A trail of disturbed snow led to a shallow crater, and in its center stood a figure that couldn't possibly be human. The being was tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner light, casting prismatic patterns across the snow. Its movements were fluid yet alien, and its large, luminescent eyes reflected the starlight like mirrors. But what struck Olivia most was its obvious distress. It was shivering violently, clearly unprepared for Earth's harsh winter. "Hello." Olivia called out softly, stepping forward with her hands raised to show she meant no harm. The creature turned to face her, and she felt a sudden wave of emotion that wasn't her own: fear, confusion, and desperate need for warmth. The alien took a hesitant step toward her, then stumbled. Without thinking, Olivia rushed forward to catch it. The being's skin was ice-cold to the touch, and its shivers had grown more violent. Making a split-second decision, Olivia shrugged off her outer coat and wrapped it around the creature's shoulders. "My cabin's not far," she said, gesturing in the direction she'd come from. "You'll freeze out here." She wasn't sure if it could understand her words, but it seemed to grasp her intent. The alien allowed her to guide it through the snow, its movements becoming more labored with each step. The journey back felt eternal, but finally, the outline of her small cabin emerged from the darkness. Once inside, Olivia quickly stoked the wood stove and wrapped her unexpected guest in thermal blankets. As warmth returned to its limbs, the alien's shimmering patterns began to pulse with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. Sitting across from each other in the cabin's dim light, human and alien studied one another with equal fascination. Olivia noticed that despite its otherworldly appearance, there was something deeply intelligent and aware in its gaze. When it raised its hand, she found herself mirroring the gesture. Their fingers touched, and suddenly her mind filled with images, stars, distant worlds, and a sense of urgent purpose. The alien was trying to communicate, but before Olivia could process what she was seeing, a sound outside made them both freeze. Helicopter rotors thudded in the distance, growing closer by the second. The alien's patterns flared with alarm, and Olivia knew with certainty that whoever was coming, they weren't here to help. She had to make a choice, and quickly. Everything she'd ever believed about life and her place in the universe had changed in the span of a few hours. Now she had to decide: turn over her extraordinary discovery to the authorities, or protect this mysterious visitor who had quite literally fallen into her life. The helicopters were getting closer. Time was running out. Acting on instinct, Olivia extinguished the lights and pulled the alien into the cabin's hidden root cellar, a small space she used for storing photography equipment and emergency supplies. As she closed the trapdoor, the helicopter searchlights swept through the windows, casting harsh beams through the darkness. The aliens' bioluminescent patterns had dimmed to barely a glimmer, but in the close confines of the cellar, Olivia could feel its rapid breathing. Their shoulders touched, and suddenly her mind flooded with images again, this time clearer, more deliberate. She saw a vast ship hidden in the rings of Saturn, a crystalline device containing what seemed like star maps, and most alarmingly, other ships approaching Earth with unknown intentions. Heavy boots crunched in the snow outside, followed by sharp knocks at the door. "Ms. Reed? This is Agent Thomas Blackwood, Department of Special Operations. We need to speak with you about an atmospheric anomaly in your area." The alien's hand found hers in the darkness, its touch sending electric tingles up her arm. In that moment of connection, understanding flowed between them. The being's name, or at least the closest approximation her human mind could process, was Kaylin, and she was a scout for an advanced civilization that had been watching Earth for centuries. "Ms. Reed? We're authorized to enter if necessary." The door handle rattled. Olivia squeezed Kaylin's hand once, then climbed out of the cellar. Running her fingers through her hair to appear disheveled, she opened the door to find three men in black tactical gear, their breath forming clouds in the cold night air. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" she demanded, channeling her best irritated photographer persona. "I'm in the middle of processing time-lapse footage of the aurora." Agent Blackwood was tall and stern-faced, with gray threading his temples. "We tracked an unusual object entering the atmosphere in this vicinity. Have you noticed anything strange tonight? Any lights or sounds out of the ordinary? Besides your helicopters scaring away every animal within 10 miles? No." Olivia crossed her arms, hoping they couldn't hear her pounding heart. "The aurora's been active, but that's hardly unusual." The agent's eyes scanned the cabin's interior. "Mind if we take a look around?" "Standard protocol." "Actually, I do mind. Do you have a warrant?" Olivia blocked the doorway, silently thanking her mother for those law classes she'd insisted on. "Because if not, you're trespassing on private property at..." She checked her watch, 3 in the morning. Blackwood's jaw tightened, but she could tell he knew she had him. "We'll need you to sign some non-disclosure agreements regarding this conversation," he said, producing a tablet. "Fine, whatever gets you off my property faster." She signed quickly, then practically pushed them out the door. "Next time try calling ahead. The landline works just fine." Only after the helicopter sounds had faded completely did Olivia release her breath. She opened the cellar door to find Kaylin standing at the bottom of the stairs, her patterns glowing brighter now. The alien raised both hands, and this time when they connected, the mental link was stronger than ever. Olivia saw Kaylin's mission with crystal clarity. Her people, the Lyrians, had detected another alien race heading toward Earth, one with a history of conquering developing civilizations. Kaylin had been sent to warn humanity, but her ship had been damaged during atmospheric entry. Now she needed to reach a specific location in the mountains where she could send a signal to her people, or Earth would remain defenseless against the approaching threat. But there was something else, something Kaylin seemed hesitant to share. When their minds touched, Olivia sensed a deeper reason for the aliens' mission, a personal stake that went beyond duty. The government teams weren't the only ones hunting her, there were others, shadows within shadows, who would stop at nothing to prevent her message from reaching its destination. As they broke contact, Olivia noticed something extraordinary. Where Kaylin's fingers had touched her skin, tiny points of light danced beneath the surface, like stars trapped under glass. The alien's eyes widened, and Olivia understood, this kind of connection between their species was unprecedented. Whatever was happening between them defied both human and Lyrian understanding. "Okay," Olivia said softly, flexing her glowing fingers. "What do you need to send your signal?" Kaylin's response came as a series of images, a mountain peak, crystalline technology that needed assembling, and most crucially, the next sunrise. They had less than 4 hours to travel through treacherous terrain while avoiding both government agents and whatever other forces were in pursuit. Olivia began gathering supplies, warm clothes, climbing gear, emergency rations. As she packed, she caught her reflection in a window and barely recognized herself. Just hours ago, she had been a simple wilderness photographer. Now she was harboring an alien fugitive and preparing to help save the world. But when she looked at Kaylin, saw the quiet determination and trust in those otherworldly eyes, she knew she was exactly where she needed to be. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The pre-dawn darkness cloaked Olivia and Kaylin as they made their way through the snowy wilderness. The temperature had dropped further, turning each breath into a cloud of crystalline mist. Olivia led the way, her years of experience navigating the Alaskan terrain proving invaluable. Behind her, Kaylin moved with an otherworldly grace despite the harsh conditions, her bioluminescent patterns now completely dimmed to avoid detection. They had covered several miles when Kaylin suddenly grabbed Olivia's arm. In the instant their skin made contact, Olivia's mind filled with a sense of immediate danger. Through their shared connection, she understood, they weren't alone in these woods. They crouched behind a fallen tree, and Olivia's newly enhanced senses detected what normal human perception might have missed: the slight crunch of snow under boots, the whisper of tactical gear, the faint red dots of laser sights sweeping through the trees. A professional search team was closing in, using a search pattern that would cut off their route to the mountain. But these weren't Agent Blackwood's government forces. The movements were too precise, too lethal in their efficiency. Through another brief touch, Kaylin confirmed Olivia's suspicions: these were the Shadow Hunters, beings that appeared human but served the very forces Kaylin had come to warn Earth about. They had been hiding among humanity for years, preparing for their species' arrival. As if to confirm the danger, a beam of light suddenly cut through the darkness, far too close. Olivia felt Kaylin tense beside her. They were running out of options and time. The mountain peak they needed to reach glowed faintly in the starlight, still hours away at their current pace. Then Olivia remembered something: an old mining tunnel she'd photographed last summer. It wasn't on any recent maps, but it cut straight through the mountain's base. It would be dangerous, but it was their only chance to avoid the search teams. She pressed her palm against Kaylin's, sharing the memory of the tunnel's location. The alien's eyes widened slightly, understanding the risk but agreeing with the plan. They began moving again, staying low and using the terrain for cover. The entrance to the tunnel was half collapsed and hidden behind thick brush, exactly as Olivia remembered. As they cleared away the debris, Kaylin suddenly straightened, her patterns flaring with alarm. She pushed Olivia aside just as a shot rang out, the bullet striking the rock where Olivia's head had been moments before. Kaylin's patterns blazed like a supernova, momentarily blinding their attackers. She pulled Olivia into the tunnel as more shots echoed behind them. In the pitch darkness, Kaylin's natural bioluminescence provided just enough light to navigate by. They ran deeper into the mountain, the sound of pursuit growing fainter. But something was wrong. Kaylin's movements had become sluggish, and when Olivia touched her arm, she felt something warm and wet, blood, but not red like a human's. It glowed faintly with the same luminescence as Kaylin's skin patterns. "You're hurt," Olivia whispered, her voice tight with concern. In response, Kaylin pressed her hand to Olivia's temple, sharing a mixture of reassurance and urgency. The wound wasn't fatal, but it was draining her energy she would desperately need to power the signal device. They continued through the tunnel system, which turned out to be more extensive than Olivia had realized. Water dripped from unseen heights, and their footsteps echoed ominously off the narrow walls. The air grew thinner as they ascended through the mountain's heart. During a brief rest, Kaylin shared more through their mental link. The beings pursuing them were called the Shadowkin, advanced scouts for a race that had destroyed countless civilizations. But Earth was different. Something about human consciousness, about humanity's capacity for connection and empathy, made them uniquely resistant to the Shadowkin's influence. That's why they had to be eliminated before the main invasion force arrived. The irony wasn't lost on Olivia: her connection with Kaylin, this impossible bridge between their species, was exactly what the enemy feared. As if in response to this thought, the glowing points where Kaylin had touched her skin pulsed brighter. A distant rumble shook loose debris from the tunnel ceiling. Their pursuers were using explosives, trying to either flush them out or bury them. They had to keep moving, but the tunnel ahead split into multiple passages. Kaylin's injury was sapping her strength, her light dimming gradually. Olivia removed her glove and laced her fingers through Kaylin's. Immediately, warmth flowed between them, and Kaylin's patterns brightened. Somehow, Olivia was sharing her own energy, sustaining the alien's vital bioluminescence. Their eyes met in a soft glow, and an understanding passed between them. Whatever happened next, they would face it as one. The tunnel shook again, more violently this time. They had to choose a path, and quickly. Above them, through thousands of feet of rock, the first light of dawn was approaching, and with it, their only chance to send the signal that could save humanity. Their joined hands cast double shadows on the tunnel walls as Olivia and Kaylin raced against time. The aliens' borrowed strength was fading, but through their connection, Olivia sensed something else emerging, a plan. Kaylin's mind showed her glimpses of crystalline technology that could be modified, adapted to work with human biology. Their unique bond might be the key to everything. Another explosion rocked the tunnel, closer this time. Through a gap in the rocks, Olivia caught a glimpse of the pre-dawn sky. They were nearly at the summit, but so were their pursuers. The Shadowkin had split into two groups, one following through the tunnels, the other scaling the mountain's exterior to cut off their escape. They emerged onto a narrow ledge just as the first rays of sunrise painted the horizon in brilliant gold. The mountain peak towered above them, its snow-covered surface glinting like diamonds. But between them and their goal stood three figures that looked human only at first glance. Their movements were too fluid, their eyes reflecting light like polished mirrors. "The signal dies with you," the central figure spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that made Olivia's teeth ache. "Your species' interference ends here." Kaylin stepped forward, positioning herself between Olivia and the Shadowkin. Her patterns pulsed with defiance as she revealed what she'd been carrying, not just a signal device, but a shard of ancient crystal technology. Through their mental link, Olivia understood its significance. It wasn't just a communication tool, it was a key to awakening humanity's dormant potential for connection with other species. The Shadowkin raised their weapons, but Kaylin was faster. She pressed the crystal into Olivia's hands, and the world exploded into light. Energy coursed through Olivia's body, igniting every cell. The glowing points where Kaylin had touched her spread, creating intricate patterns across her skin that mirrored the alien's own bioluminescence. The transformation wasn't just physical. Olivia's consciousness expanded, connecting not just with Kaylin but with the mountain itself, the air, the first rays of dawn. She sensed the Shadowkin's true forms beneath their human disguises, dark, twisted things that fed on fear and isolation. Now. Kaylin's voice resonated directly in Olivia's mind. Together, they raised the crystal. Their combined energy surged through it, transforming the ancient technology into something entirely new. A beam of pure light erupted from the crystal, piercing the morning sky. The Shadowkin attacked, their forms shifting into something nightmarish. But they couldn't approach, the light emanating from Olivia and Kaylin formed a barrier they couldn't penetrate. Through their shared consciousness, Olivia understood what was happening. Their connection, this bridge between human and Lyrian, was anathema to everything the Shadowkin represented. The signal pulsed outward in waves, not just into space but into the collective consciousness of humanity. Across the globe, people would wake with new awareness, new potential for connection. The Shadowkin's greatest weapon had been isolation, keeping humanity fragmented and afraid. That weapon was now useless. But the power coursing through them was too much for human flesh to contain. Olivia felt herself burning from the inside out. Kaylin sensed it too, and her fear for Olivia rippled through their bond. The alien tried to pull away, to sever their connection and spare Olivia, but Olivia held on tighter. Together, Olivia gasped. We finish this together. The Shadowkin launched a final, desperate attack. At the same moment, Agent Blackwood and his team emerged from another tunnel entrance, weapons raised. Time seemed to freeze as multiple forces converged on the mountain peak. Through the crystal, Olivia glimpsed the vast Lyrian ships responding to their signal, moving to intercept the approaching invasion fleet. But closer to home, she saw something even more extraordinary, the beginning of a change in human consciousness, a great awakening spreading across the planet like dawn chasing away darkness. The crystal's power peaked, and Olivia felt herself slipping. The last thing she saw was Kaelin's face, those alien eyes filled with something that transcended species, love, mixed with desperate determination. Then everything went white, and Olivia felt herself falling into that brilliant light. Kaelin's consciousness intertwined with her own as reality itself seemed to transform around them. Olivia awoke to the soft beep of medical equipment and the sensation of warmth on her skin. Her eyes fluttered open to a sight that made her breath catch, sunlight streaming through a window unlike any on Earth, its crystal-like surface refracting light into countless rainbow patterns across the room. She wasn't in a hospital, at least not a human one. The chamber's organic architecture pulsed with the same bioluminescence she'd come to associate with Kaelin. As consciousness fully returned, she became aware of another sensation, the familiar tingle of connection. Kaelin sat beside her, their fingers intertwined, the alien's patterns synchronizing with Olivia's own still-glowing skin. We did it, Olivia whispered, her voice rough from disuse. Through their touch, memories flooded back, the crystal's power, the signal, the transformation. How long was I? 3 Earth days, Kaelin spoke aloud for the first time, her voice carrying musical undertones that made Olivia's heart skip. The alien had learned to modulate her speech to human frequencies. The crystal's energy nearly burned out your nervous system. We had to bring you to the Lyrian medical ship. Olivia sat up slowly, taking in her surroundings. Through a vast window, she could see Earth below, a beautiful blue marble suspended in space. Closer, in high orbit, massive Lyrian ships moved in formation, not as invaders, but as guardians. The Shadowkin? She asked, though through their connection, she already sensed the answer. Retreating. Your transformation changed everything. When humans began awakening to their potential for connection, the Shadowkin lost their foothold. They cannot exist in a world where barriers between consciousness are breaking down. Olivia looked at her hands, where patterns of light still danced beneath her skin. Will it fade? No, Kaelin's grip tightened slightly. The change is permanent. You're something new, Olivia. The first bridge between our species, but not the last. All across Earth, others are discovering similar abilities, different forms of connection and communication that the Shadowkin tried to suppress for millennia. Through their linked hands, Olivia saw glimpses of what was happening below. People waking up to new awareness, finding ways to share thoughts and emotions that transcended language. Artists creating works that spoke directly to the soul. Scientists making breakthrough discoveries as their minds opened to new possibilities. It wasn't a loss of humanity, but an evolution, the very thing the Shadowkin had feared. Agent Blackwood? Olivia asked, remembering the government team on the mountain. Became our strongest ally, Kaelin's patterns rippled with something like amusement. He was among the first wave of awakened humans. He's now leading the diplomatic exchange between Earth governments and the Lyrian Council. Olivia stood carefully, drawing closer to the window. Ships of various designs were visible now, not just Lyrian vessels, but craft from other peaceful spacefaring races, drawn by humanity's dramatic emergence onto the galactic stage. What happens now? She asked, though the question encompassed more than just global politics. Through their connection, Kaelin sensed the personal nature of her query. The alien rose and stood beside her, their reflections overlapping in the crystal window. Now, Kaelin said softly, we build bridges. Between worlds, between species, between hearts. Your photography captured the beauty of Earth's wilderness. Would you like to capture the wonders of other worlds? Olivia turned to face her companion, seeing past the alien features to the soul she'd come to love. Their foreheads touched, and in that moment, both their bioluminescent patterns blazed with shared joy. No words were needed, their bond spoke volumes. In the depths of space, Earth continued its eternal dance around the sun. But it was no longer alone. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not through conquest or fear, but through connection and understanding. And it had all started in the cold Alaskan wilderness, with a shivering alien and a photographer brave enough to offer warmth to a stranger from the stars. Olivia and Kaylin remained by the window, watching the first of many sunrises from orbit, their joined hands casting a single shadow as light from distant stars illuminated the path ahead. In their shared consciousness, both understood that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. Beyond the horizon of human experience lay infinite possibilities, waiting to be explored together. The patterns of light beneath their skin pulsed in harmony, a visible symbol of the truth they had discovered, that love, understanding, and connection could bridge any distance, even the vast expanses between the stars.